Hey, what's going on? My name is Coach Brooks, and I'm the co-owner of BRX Performance, the country's highest rated baseball performance facility. This is our facility in Milwaukee, 13,000 square feet, where we've trained everyone from little leaguers to big leaguers and everyone in between. And what we've kind of become known for, and this is probably the way you or your son became acquainted with us initially, was by seeing one of our progress videos on social media. And here's an example of one of them. This is our athlete, Colin. He went from 82 to 95 over the course of 8 months. His exit velocity went from 81 to 91, and then he received a Division I scholarship offer less than 12 months after starting with us, after being previously completely unrecruited and off the recruiting radar. Now, these athletes in common were following something that we call the pyramid of results, which explains why these results happen. Now, quite simply, this shows where our results come from and how much they impact, how much each level impacts the progress an athlete can make. Now, while this can of course vary based on age and experience, we believe that generally speaking, adding in mechanical hacks can improve your velocity by 2 to 5 miles per hour, a throwing and hitting program by 5 miles per hour, and the right strength training program by 10 plus miles an hour. But if you want to know the true reason for why these incredible results are happening when you see those videos, it's because of the baseball specific strength training program. I'm going to promise I'll back it up in a second. Now, let's get into it. So I'm going to start really quick by saying something I think that would have terrified me a few years ago, and that's, I'm just going to get real with athletes for a second, because I think that I made a decision that if I truly care about each one of our athletes, I'll tell them what they need to hear to reach their goals, not just what they want to hear, even if those two things are at odds. Now, here's what you're looking at. This basically is a trajectory graph. This shows you, based on your current numbers, what trajectory you're on. This is based on us compiling years of showcase data. So for example, the average Division I baseball player, when they were a sophomore in high school, they had an 87.4 mile per hour exit velocity. The average pitcher who becomes Division I was throwing 84.5 when they were a sophomore, and the average Division II pitcher was throwing 82.4. So of course, this isn't a perfect science, but this shows you guys, for almost all baseball players, there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be, right? And this is the same way that it was for me when I was a youth athlete. The problem here is that most people would look at our results and they would think that the reason why someone like Colin went from 82 to 95 and then committed was because of a throwing program. And that was my fault for not explaining what the true reason for these results were. It was actually a baseball specific strength training program. And that's what leads me into my main point. For 99% of high school and youth baseball players, their problem is not a lack of exposure or good mechanics. It's actually a lack of velocity that's caused by a lack of strength. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this is because I honestly think that what has the greatest impact on high school and youth baseball players reaching their goals gets prioritized the least with their dollars and time. Colin, who you saw a few slides ago, did not even touch a baseball with us for his first 7 of 8 months. And he had already gone from 82 to 92 miles an hour just by strength training the right way. And again, why I'm so impassioned about this is because it's typically the last thing that gets prioritized when it comes to baseball expenses. Most baseball players and families are spending between $10,000 and $15,000 per year on travel, team fees, lessons, right? And they neglect the main thing that's holding them back when they see a gap between their ability and what their ambition is. When you think about that chart I just showed you a second ago, if you currently throw 76 across the infield and you're a sophomore and your goal is to be a Division I infielder, you have a 6 to 8 mile per hour gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And none of the stuff you're seeing here truly is what's going to help you close that gap for most baseball players, other than an actual strength training program. And so what makes our strength training program so unique? And this starts back from when I was in college myself. We went through our winter weightlifting program where I played college baseball at a school called UW La Crosse in Wisconsin. And we had, a bench press, back squat, hang clean, power clean. And when we tested our numbers after going through that training program, my 60-yard dash got worse from a 6'6" to a 6'8", and my vertical jump got less high, from 31 to 28. And I added 15 pounds of muscle, and I was sitting here thinking, what's the point here, right? I got less explosive. Sure, I gained 15 pounds, but I got less explosive, right? It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And so I started thinking about the way baseball players move. So I want you guys to think to yourselves, is the athlete moving on one leg or two, and in a linear sense or lateral plane? So linear versus lateral, and one leg versus two. We got Javi Baez and Mike Trout, Christian Yelich and Bellinger, and then Scherzer. You guys are starting to see a trend. Baseball is a one-leg lateral push sport characterized by a rotational twist afterwards. Lateral push, then rotational twist. And I thought back to my old workout program. Every single thing, bench press, back squat, hang clean, power clean, was on 2 legs and in the linear plane. So it made sense that if I didn't train the way baseball players are supposed to train, I was going to lose some of my ability and not achieve my ultimate goal of unlocking my baseball potential, right? And so I started training differently, and this is where I am now. And I show you this not to brag, but to show you what's possible when you train the right way. 98 miles an hour in a pull down. And now 101 miles per hour on the exit velocity test. When I was in high school, I was in the high 70s and low 80s in both of those tests. And by training the right way, I'm now approaching triple digits for both, right? So That's not just me saying it, right? It's also college coaches saying it. Matt Hobbs, Arkansas, spend your money on training first. The biggest thing we see is kids showcasing themselves before they're ready to be showcased. I think you'd be better off spending your money on becoming a better baseball player first. And this is exactly why we created the Baseball Development Secrets program, right? Which includes baseball-specific strength training and also a free velocity throwing program. This is all accessible on our BRX mobile app. 9 off-season and 3 in-season programs. There's 3 separate versions of those programs, one for advanced athletes who are 16 or older, another for beginning athletes who are in that 13 to 15 age range, and then also one that doesn't involve many weights for youth athletes that we have athletes between 9 and 12 using the youth version of our program. Now here's how an athlete executes their program. It's pretty simple. They download our BRX mobile app once you get on our program. You open the app, and then you click the menu bar in the very top left of your screen. You click groups, Click groups, and you click Baseball Development Secret System. You scroll down, you change where it says activity on the drop down, you change that to plans, and then you choose whatever age you are, you'll choose that particular plan. So I'm going to choose the advanced program here, month 1. I click view plan, I click week 1, week 1, day 1. Week 1, day 3 in this particular example. This would be the order of your week 1, day 3 workout. About 20 drills in all, and this literally takes you through step A, my warm-up, all the way to Z when I finish my workout. And this is basically the video database that's included with every single drill in the program. So when you see 2 sets of 6 per leg, Bulgarian split squat, this is exactly how you know how to do the drill and how to know what kind of mistakes to watch out for, this and that. So that basically is the video tutorial database that is accompanied by the actual program itself. When you want to log and keep track of your progress and weights, you click log on the top right. You go down to your particular drill on the actual day that you're currently on, and you just type in your weight. It's as simple as that. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how the BRX app works and how you follow your routine. The program works on strength, speed and agility, flexibility, rotational power, core, arm care, everything a baseball player needs to improve their abilities. And make no mistake, when you see our progress videos, this is the main reason why those are happening. The baseball specific strength training program. So here's why we are doing this, right? So if you look at me, I have a straight line from my bicep to my forearm, right? Now, sometimes people can get further than I can. This is called hyperextension, right? Also known as being double jointed. Basically, the reason why this athlete can get beyond straight is because his ligaments at his elbow are a little looser than mine. Now, let me ask you this. Who generally throws a ball harder? Someone who is tighter or someone who is looser?
Someone's looser.
You got it, right? So it's more of a good thing than a bad thing. But when you have looser ligaments, it means you have less stability at that joint. What happens to injury risk when you have less stability at a joint?
Sorry, what? Can you repeat that?
Yeah. What happens to injury risk when you have less stability at a joint?
Higher risk of getting hurt.
You got it. So while being looser can help you throw harder, looser means you are less stable, means you're more likely to get injured. So it's called like a double-edged sword. It can be good, it can be bad, right? Now, here's why this is so important. What is everyone doing in the outfield before the game?
The forearm stretch.
Yeah, they're kind of stretching, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's the purpose of stretching?
To get loose.
Get loose. So if someone is already so loose genetically that by itself they are at an increased risk of injury, what is stretching even more going to do to that risk of injury?
Make it more brittle.
Make it where, yeah, exactly, right? So should that top athlete be stretching his forearm with the rest of the team?
Mm-mm.
He's making himself more likely to get injured by doing that. Other end of the spectrum. This is our big leaguer he's played with the Diamondbacks and Yankees, Ben Heller. Up until 3 years ago, this is as straight as he can make his elbow. The guy at the bottom here. Pretty wild how, right? Yeah. He's on the opposite end of the spectrum. He is too tight. That same stretch I just talked about that makes this athlete worse because he's too loose does what to this guy because he's too tight?
Makes it harder.
Yeah, and it makes him better, right? Makes him less likely to get injured. So the same stretch can make one person worse and another better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is why we are going through all these tests right now, is because if I just give you like a general program that, everyone does, like there is a way to make it safe. You're not going to hurt someone, but it's really not like the gold standard. It's not the best case scenario, right? Because everyone's different, right? No two people are the same, like you're seeing here with this picture. What my goal is to figure out what joints in your entire body are you loose in or loose enough in. Are we going to stretch those? No. It'll be more based on stability and strength of those parts of your body to keep you healthier and help you get to your goal. On the other end of the spectrum, if there are parts of your body that are too tight, we should stretch those. And for every person, it's a little different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So 90% of your program will be the same as someone else, but 10% will be personalized to you based on what I'm finding in all these tests. So I always just kind of like explaining this first because it kind of, I think, clarifies like what we mean when we say like individualized program. It's individualized to every joint in your body based on what we're finding on these tests.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
you don't have to be an anatomy nerd to know that this is just kind of wrong, kind of nasty. The shoulder blades. Kind of funky, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you see that scar on the back of his left shoulder?
Yeah.
Yep, so that is from a weightlifting injury. So when he was in 8th grade, before he started with us, he was doing a workout at a facility that didn't really personalize the program to him. It was his first week. He was expected to be keeping up with like junior offensive linemen, right? And he was doing a weighted plank at the end of his workout. And they put a 45-pound plate on his back, and his left shoulder gave out, damaged all the nerves in his shoulder. And he actually became partially paralyzed in his left shoulder from that injury. So pretty scary stuff, right? And this ends up as a happy story, but it starts off very dark and it's a sad story, right? This was him, again, back on his first week with us. This is how high he could lift his left arm. And that was after 8 months of physical therapy. And so physical therapists and doctors did a great job with him. And they said that, you're going to get about 80% of the way up, but you will never get your arm fully overhead again in your life. Pretty sad stuff, right? That you're probably going to have to quit basketball and baseball. And that would be devastating for anyone, especially, an 8th grader, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, after 15 months of training, this is the same guy. Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah.
Like, go to this one over here. Full overhead range of motion. Pretty crazy. So the reason why I show this story is there's 2 reasons. Number one more example of someone who was told they weren't going to do something and said, watch me go out and do it. Right?
Yeah.
He was then throwing like 90 miles an hour on a shuffle just a couple years after being told he'd have to quit baseball. So that's the first reason I talk about this story. Number 2 is to talk about this test, the scapular screens test, because this is the most important test that we do because it gives me incredible insight into what muscles we have to get stronger to keep you healthy, but also what we have to do to kind of help you throw harder and get your arm stronger, right? And make sure we don't hurt you with the exercises that we give you, because this helps me personalize your program even further based on strengths, weaknesses, deficits in your shoulders.
You guys can't already tell a big stories person. Rather than just put a bunch of text on a slide, I want to show you guys themes, concepts, ideas, stories, because I think it'll sink in more and you'll get more from this webinar. Joel is someone that my business partner Josh and I played with at lacrosse, and he has an absolutely incredible story, a seriously up and down story. He was the genetic freak, 6'2", 240 pounds in high school, the guy who just shows up and throws 90 miles an hour without even trying. So he throws 90 miles an hour in high school. He gets a scholarship offer to a Pac-12 school on the West Coast. I'm not saying the school because I don't want to get in trouble. So he throws 91 when he arrives. They have him on his typical weightlifting program, right? Like I showed you guys earlier. This is back in 2009. Bench press, back squat, hang clean. He loses 5 miles an hour in his fastball. He's down to 86 miles an hour. And the coaching staff says, Joel, we're pulling your scholarship. We're giving it to someone else. So he goes to Madison College, a really good junior college for baseball players in Madison for his sophomore year. He gets his velocity back up to what he was in high school, 90-91. He goes to a school in the ACC, an orange school in the ACC for his junior year. And guess what happens at this school? Same exact thing. He comes in at 90-91, lifting like a football player, bench press, back squat, hang clean. He's down to 85-86. The coaching staff after his junior year they don't just say, Joel, we're pulling your scholarship. They say, number 1, no scholarship. Number 2, you can't even pay your own way and stay as a walk-on. They said, you're cut, get lost. They literally told him word for word at the end of the year, Joel, we don't ever think you're going to amount to anything when it comes to baseball. Pretty ruthless, right? So he transfers to lacrosse, where I'm playing baseball at the time. This is my senior year and his senior year. He shows up at 88, maxing out at 88 in the fall, and we start working out together, right? And this is a Bulgarian split squat, which I'll talk about in a little bit. This is one of our favorite drills to improve velocity. Right here, he's doing 225 pounds. This is his first pro off season. Now, back up a step to when he first showed up at lacrosse. He could not do 10 pounds on each side of the bar without losing his balance. 10 pounds. This guy could back squat on 2 legs, 500 plus pounds. He couldn't do 10 pounds on each side of the bar and stabilize on 1 leg. Again, think back to what I talked about a second ago, right? Baseball players need to have single leg strength. So all of that 2-leg strength that he had didn't do him any good, right? Because he didn't have any functional baseball specific strength. And that's what we worked on that entire senior year when we were working out together, when we were both seniors at lacrosse. And here were the new drills that he was doing throughout that entire off season. 2-a-days, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then again from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Single leg strength, lateral strength, general strength, rotational power, lateral power, general power. When he first got into lacrosse, he was throwing 88 miles an hour tops. After training for 5 months, 2-a-days, like I said, at 6 in the morning and 3 p.m. in the afternoon, his very first bullpen, he throws 93 miles an hour. Conference tournament again in May against Stevens Point, 95 miles an hour. He gets invited to a pre-draft workout 2 days before the draft, hits 97 miles an hour several times with the scout there, right? He gets drafted by the Marlins 2 days later. The guy played 4 years of professional baseball in the Marlins organization. How cool is that, right? The guy actually made it. He became a professional baseball player, got his own baseball card. That's not the best part of the story, though. This is for every single one of our workouts, that entire offseason, whether it was 90 degrees in August or 10 degrees in February, this guy, Joel, showed up to UW Lacrosse's field house for every one of our 6 a.m. workouts wearing the same nasty blaze orange hat of the school his junior year that told him he was never going to amount to anything. Why would he wear that hat? Someone tell me in the chat. Why did he wear that hat? Motivation. Exactly. Fuel. I love it. Exactly. Right. Here was a guy with all the talent in the world. He was just missing the last missing puzzle piece, the right program, the right guidance. Once he got that program, right, the rest was history. And he wore that hat for every single one of our workouts, even during his pro off seasons, right? He wore that hat as a reminder of the people that doubted him along his path, right? And once he finally got that last missing puzzle piece, the right program, the right guidance, the 20%, he applied what was far more important, the 80%, the mentality, the mindset, the badass mentality of saying, I refuse to be outworked. And that's what he did. He willed himself to his ultimate goal, right? So as good as this story is, how many of you guys were looking at that story and saying, it's a great story, but I'm not 6'2", 240 in high school, right? I'm not the guy who just shows up throwing 90 without even trying, right? Because that was me. I was in your shoes as well. So if you guys were thinking that, this next story is for you. Someone on the other end of the spectrum. This is Tim Collins. So quick background info. I did my internship at a place out in Boston, what's considered the world's first baseball training facility. And this was one of their first rags to riches stories. This guy's name is Tim Collins. This is him on his very first day as a high school senior, right? First day, high school senior. I want you guys to think to yourselves how tall you think he is and how much he weighs as a left-handed pitcher, high school senior, throwing 78, 79 miles an hour. Take 3 seconds to think. High school senior. Would you have guessed he was 5'5", 135 pounds? I bet not, right? So you can imagine why he was completely unrecruited, right? No one knew he existed because he was a small 5'5", 135-pound high school, pitcher throwing 79. This was him 3 years later. Same dude. End of year 1, he's up to 89. Year 2, 92. Year 3, 94, touching 97 miles an hour. He goes from 5'5", 130 pounds to 5'5", 170. He goes from 78, 79 on the left, high school senior, to 92, 94, touching 97 miles an hour 3 years later. And get this, closed out a World Series game for the Kansas City Royals, Game 5, 2014 World Series against the Giants. How incredible is that, right? And the best part about that story, I walk in to begin my very first day working on January 2nd, 2014, my first day working at this facility. And that happened before I already got out there, right? This 5'5", 130 to 5'5", 170 happened before I got out there. I heard about him being this awesome guy, friendly, down to earth, warm, inviting. I'll never forget my first day working. I've never been more scared to say hi to someone in my life, right? Because he wasn't there like, what's up, Snapchat him at the gym today. It was phones in my backpack, turned off. I'm here with the freaking purpose. I got something to prove, right? Outworking everyone around him by a factor of 4. Why do you think he had that chip on his shoulder? Again, I want to hear some insight in the chat, right? Type in the chat, why you guys think he had that chip on his shoulder? What were people always telling him when he would say what his goals were? Too small, right? Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Yeah, exactly. You're too small, right? Give it up. Your goals are crazy, right? And I don't care what your goal is, right? For if it's Division I, Hall of Fame, make your varsity baseball team, like big goals, right? Few people reach them, but is the chance still there? 100%, right? You got absolutely nothing to lose by emptying the tank and saying, what might happen if I have the right program, the right guidance, and I apply myself?